Here's what week 2 of the 226 Winter Olympics revealed about the psychology of elite performance. Not highlights, not medal counts, mindset. Because when the environment is this intense, global stage compressed, timelines, national expectation, what we're really watching is human performance under extreme psychological load. Across countries, sports, and outcomes, very clear mental patterns emerge. And what's powerful is that the psychological and emotional themes I'm going to share with you today can be related to all of us, as they apply to winning, struggling, rebounding, and simply surviving moments. And by the way, if we haven't yet met, I'm Dr. Haley Perlus. I'm a sports psychology coach, former athlete and sport coach, and here to help us all optimize our inner strength to maximize our outer strength. Let's walk through the major mindset themes and the athletes who brought them to life. Please forgive me if I mispronounce names or do not include your favorite athletes. These are just examples of great athletes that can share powerful lessons for us all to learn. And if they can do it, so can we. First, identity reconstruction. Some of the most remarkable performances have come from athletes redefining who they are, not just how they perform. Alysa Liu returned to Olympic figure skating after stepping away from the sport entirely. When she came back, she wasn't just chasing results, she was skating with autonomy, enjoyment, and ownership. And that shift matters. When motivation becomes internally driven, fear of failure drops, and performance freedom increases. A young prodigy growing up in the world of competitive skating, Alysa followed all the rules and schedules given to her. Her life depended on her sport. By the time she was 16, she didn't like it anymore, so she retired. She got her driver's license, made friends outside sport, and figured out who she was without skating. Then, on her own, she returned a couple years later. But this time she knew something she didn't know before. Alysa was not just a figure skater. That was not her identity. It was simply one way she chose to challenge herself, to inspire others, and to excel. She is a person with many values and qualities, and she applies those to the role of figure skating. Alana Myers Taylor is another example of where athlete is just one role, not a whole identity. Alana competed at 41 while parenting children with special needs and recovering from a concussion. She performed not in isolation from life, but inside life's full complexities. And that requires psychological bandwidth. She came to the Olympics with her family. While she was there, she was a person fulfilling many roles: athlete, mom, leader, human. Lesson. Performance is more stable when identity is anchored in values and qualities, not roles. And if you'd like to learn more about purpose and identity, check out the link in the description to learn how to stay anchored while you strive for your dreams. Second, the burden of dominance and expectation. When winning becomes assumed, the psychological challenge becomes preservation in addition to pursuit. Mikaela Shiffrin and Mikael Kingsbury occupy remarkably similar psychological territory. They are not just champions, they define their sport. Each has built historical dominance. Each became the benchmark others chase. Shiffrin is the most prolific World Cup winner in alpine skiing history, with over 100 victories. Kingsbury holds the same distinction in freestyle moguls, also surpassing 100 wins. Their dominance reshaped expectations of what winning looks like. For them, competition is no longer about a breakthrough. It is about confirming status and preserving legacy. At the start of these Olympics, neither found immediate success. Earlier events passed without the victories many expected. Pressure accumulated. For athletes with over a decade of dominance, early disappointment can carry meaning. It raises questions of continuity, decline, and whether history will repeat itself. By the time their defining events arrived, slalom for Shiffrin, moguls for Kingsbury, the emotional stakes had intensified. These were no longer just competitions. They were moments where legacy, expectation, and unfinished Olympic narrative converged. And both delivered. When they returned to their signature events and won, their task was not just execution. It was regulating meaning psychologically and mentally. They both needed to prevent expectation and history from overwhelming their automatic skill set. This is sustained greatness, focus, unshakable confidence, high performance when it matters most. Lesson: when things don't start smoothly, greatness is revealed when pressure builds, meaning intensifies, and you still trust yourself and your training. Third, collective regulation and shared pressure. Teams do not just perform together, they regulate together. At the Olympic level, performance becomes a shared physiological experience. Heart rates rise together. Momentum shifts affect everyone. One athlete's confidence stabilizes teammates. One athlete's tension ripples through the system. When skill is all equal, outcome depends on collective emotional regulation. Sweden's cross-country team sprint demands repeated high-intensity efforts, rapid exchanges, and precise pacing and coordination. Every surge, hesitation, or energy decision by one athlete directly affects another. This requires synchronization. Teammates must read rhythm, maintain emotional steadiness, and execute exchanges at max heart rate. Winning teams looked composed, not frantic. That composure is co-regulation. The Canadian women's hockey team competes inside one of the most volatile environments in sport. Goals shift momentum instantly. Crowd energy surges and crashes. Physical contact elevates arousal. Penalties spike stress. Performance depends on skill and emotional stability. Elite teams reset quickly, maintain communication tone, preserve structure under pressure. Next shift, stay with the plan. These are regulation cues. When emotional containment breaks, errors can multiply. When regulation holds, decision-making stays sharp. Short track relay teams operate through nonverbal synchronization. Exchanges happen at extreme speed. Trust is physical, rhythm is shared. One disruption, and the whole system must stabilize instantly. Biathlon relays carry emotional moments across athletes. Clean shooting transfers confidence. Misses can transfer pressure. Teams regulate the emotional chain through breathing, routine, and focus. Across all these teams, one truth emerges. Emotional states are contagious. Success requires shared rhythm, communication discipline, and rapid reset. Teams function as one coordinated emotional system. Lesson: elite teams win not because everyone stays perfectly composed, but because they stabilize one another. Collective excellence is shared regulation. The most effective teams do not eliminate stress. They distribute it, they manage it, and they transform it into coordinated action. In high-stakes performance, success is rarely about the strongest individual nervous system. It's about the most connected one. And that brings us to the broader truth of Week 2. What we saw was not just sport, it was adaptation. Athletes redefining identity, champions carrying the weight of dominance, teams regulating emotion in real time. We saw pressure intensify, meaning deepen, fatigue accumulate, and still performance emerged. That is the psychology of elite environments. Not the absence of stress, not perfect composure, not ideal conditions, but the ability to function when everything is significant. Week 2 of the Olympics strips performance down to its essentials. Who are you when expectations rise? What anchors you when outcomes feel heavy? How do you regulate yourself when you are not alone in the pressure, when your teammates, your country, your history are all part of the moment? These are not Olympic-only questions, though. They are human performance questions, because every one of us enters environments where stakes feel high, where roles feel defining, where outcomes seem to carry meaning beyond the moment. And what these athletes show us is not how to avoid those moments, but how to move through them. With identity grounded in values, with confidence built from preparation, with regulation individually and collectively, with the willingness to stay present when pressure is at its greatest. That is mental toughness. Not necessarily intensity, not force, not control over everything, but stability inside significance. And as we move into the final stretch of these games, watch not just who wins, but how athletes respond, because response is where performance lives. Thank you for being here for this week's Mental Toughness Moment. If you found value in this breakdown, subscribe so you don't miss next week's video. Also, as you step into your own high-stakes moments this week, remember, pressure is not the signal to retreat. It's the signal that what you're doing matters. Until next time, have a wonderful rest of your day.